This is One on One. We are thrilled to welcome our good friend Michellene Davis, Executive Vice President, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, RWJBarnabas Health, and also the President of Executive Women of New Jersey. How you doing?
I am well. How are you? Good.
Let's talk women in leadership. We did a panel discussion for the Business and Industry Association of New Jersey, unlocking the C-suite. But also the other piece of this is that your organization came out with a report called A Seat at the Table. What's it all about?
Oh, the Seat at the Table is the report that is issued annually by Executive Women of New Jersey in order to measure the progression of women into the C-suite and on corporate boards in the state of New Jersey.
How are we doing?
Well, there is room for improvement. That's what I will say. Listen, we just released a list recently that talked about and named 22 companies that have 3 or more women on their board, incredibly important, and so we applaud them. But it's also to let other companies know.
They're on the so-called honor roll?
Absolutely. They're on the business honor roll, right? They are acting in an honorable fashion and making certain that there's diversity.
Was it hard to find them?
So it wasn't hard to find them.
Sorry.
The research and data is there. I will tell you that we had hoped to be able to name 50. We named 22.
The bar is high.
The bar should be.
Okay,
right?
So here's the thing. When we had this discussion with our friend Michelle Sekurka and the Business and Industry Association, one of the things we talked about, I was honored to moderate this panel. Michellene was a key part of it. One of the things we kept talking about is women in leadership. There are white women in leadership, and then there are women of color. And I asked, is it any different? If so, how?
So it is different, Steve. I think that everything has nuance to it, right? But diversity in any area is usually, right, it has been proven to be better for business. For women of color in particular, you asked a question during that panel, which was a ton of fun, about being assertive. Sometimes our presence is literally looked at as almost being aggressive. And
not
so,
assertive?
Not assertive.
What's the difference in people's minds?
So some of it has to do with unconscious bias, my friend, which we all have. It is part of being human and being in this world, and we need for people not to be afraid of that. As a result of that, many times women struggle around the issue of, so then how do I, right, assert myself without necessarily being aggressive? We talked about the fact that I smile a lot. I smile a lot because I think that it helps to...
Strategically?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I want to set a tone and tenor that lets you know that I'm only here to help, not to harm, right? That we can actually achieve a win-win together.
Even if you're in a tough negotiation?
Absolutely, when I'm in a tough negotiation.
That's the smile, then? What does it do?
It does two things. It's interesting. I've said no to people, but I've been shaking my head yes, and they agree with me, and then they're like, wait a minute, you just said no to me. So it's interesting. What I want to do is make certain that folks understand that this is not a us versus them situation. We're all in
male,
this,
female.
Yeah, right, male, female, or any other dividing line, right? That there's win-win that's actually possible and plausible. One of the things that studies show is the fact that when there are more women on these boards, right, that the higher number of women, the more likelihood it is for them to be able to speak out and be able to literally benefit the bottom line.
As opposed to being the one.
As opposed to being the one. When you're the one and only, you oftentimes feel like that in every setting. And so sometimes when you speak up, you don't get the backing of others who look at you as different, separate, and apart. I do, in fact, believe that sort of leaning in and smiling and inviting others in.
Sandberg thing. You believe
you got it.
But real quick, another thing. Millennials.
Yeah.
Women who happen to be millennials. What are they going to face? Or they're going to say, you know what? No big deal. We've had all kinds of opportunities. Others have paved the way. What's it going to be like for them?
So two things. One, really important for them to know that others have paved the way and that those others are still there, right? And so it's going to be really incredibly imperative for them to make certain that they get on board and that they do the work. I have also had the unique opportunity to manage some millennials. Sometimes they think that after 6 months, right, they're ready for the CEO-ship. I want to encourage them to be patient and to really make certain that they are studying what they need to study, learning what they need to learn during the opportunity that they currently have. Right? Master that. Not just attain the goal, master the goal.
But Michellene, they don't know what they don't know, and you've mentored some of them. One of the pieces of advice that we talked about in that other panel I want to talk about here, a woman should be looking for a mentor in business or in any environment, public broadcasting or whatever. Do you look for a mentor?
So two things. I've been very, very fortunate, but that's because success has many fathers, right? Failure is an orphan. Once you demonstrate a track record of success, right? I've had mentors select me, actually. But yes, they should be looking for mentors. But more than that, Steve, and this is something that I've talked about before, and sponsors and coaches, right? So you need someone to coach you through. All of the great athletes have fantastic coaches.
That's right.
You need someone to help coach you through the navigation of those waters. Mentors have a different purpose. Sponsors are incredibly important in any corporate environment. But I would like to tell you that it's corporate, it's education, education, it's government. Every environment really requires there to be a sponsor. But you gain sponsors as a result of doing two things. One, evidencing the fact that you're malleable, that you want to understand, right, what you don't know. You got it, my friend. And then two, really being committed to mastering your work. As a result of that, people are willing to invest that time in you.
Final question. You know I'm obsessed with leadership, right? This book that I'm not going to promote it. You know what it is, Lessons in Leadership. I ask the number one lesson in leadership that you want to share, particularly with women today, is?
I still want to encourage women to show up as their authentic selves. I know that that seems like I'm droning on, saying the same thing. I'm going to tell you why. I recently had someone come to me to talk to me about doing a high-stakes presentation and how nervous they get. What I realized is the fact that that was because they were trying to meet the merits of what they thought people wanted to see and what they thought people wanted to hear. That kept them from being able to master their subject matter. When you decide that I'm bringing my best self to work every day, I'm going to bring my best self to that meeting, to that board presentation, whatever it is, then you remove all of the artificial that gets in the way of mastering your true subject matter. I believe that it matters, Steve.
Thank you, Michellene.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Georgian Court University, NJM Insurance Group, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, the Russell Berry Foundation, the Northward Center, and by Adler Aphasia Center, transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.